You did or did not? He's really trying to be funky. So now it's not
That's what most of them do. If we're the ones that okay.
But we have
Right.
haven't done it back yet.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So, and we wanted to re-own, we want to take a tour.
Did you see my email?
No, I think that's the best overall. Longer term.
Sorry about that. He responded pretty much right away, and then I just didn't realize it wasn't.
You didn't answer that because
No, if we're.
I want my professionalism to come out
Holding
before.
back right now, we're just waiting.
Because if you had gotten the initial response, what would it?
I didn't know. I understand.
Maybe not that's.
You don't even need to say anything, quite frankly.
So he picks and chooses his.
Just the hospital. So that's what.
Just basically, I didn't share his wording.
Yeah, well, I had.
Really?
I mean, it's just
Electric,
it's like, you know,
somewhere else.
like I phrased my email very intentionally, like, do you want help with this? I said help all the time. He was very straightforward.
Right. Well, they looked at it, yeah, they said it's just.
So you don't want me to respond to that?
No. I have my own set of responding.
And we have to be thankful, and that's what I mean, don't look at gift cards and not.
Oh.
It's really what the answer is the back.
You good, Ben?
Right.
I have to, I put it's like a solar flow off in there. It's too late for me.
Yeah.
You get minutes.
They are a lot later.
Don't know. I was not here on Thursday, Friday.
That would have been my kitchen, and I got solar flare. How nice the kitchen.
You gotta open it.
All right, is everybody ready? All right, I'd like to call to order this regular monthly meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees, August 13th, 2018. All board members are present. Clerk is on vacation and is excused. I have a couple of changes to the agenda. We are going to table item 6D3, the draft external communications policy. The gentleman from Line Bike, his schedule changed again, so he will be here at 7:30. So I'm going to let him give the stats instead of me reading his email. So we'll try to sneak him in at 7:30 before the board reports. Any other changes from the board to make to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we do not have minutes to approve from last month's meeting. They're still in draft form, so we'll get those added to next month's meeting to approve. Which takes us to item number 4, which is our first public comment period. Privilege of the floor. If anyone from the public would like to say anything, now is a good time. The 15 minutes set aside if anybody wants to opine. Going once. Going twice. All right, there'll be another public comment at the end of the meeting. If anybody comes up with anything that they want to talk about in the meantime. What's going on?
I need to find a pen.
Hmm?
I need to find a pen.
Never, and Vicky.
Thank you. They completed its drafts. They've transmitted them to the town board. But we are now kind of opening a somewhat extensive process that will share that information and receive feedback before we take any action on. They're probably going to take at least 8 or 10 different sections of our zoning that have been, for which updates have been recommended. And there are a series of public open houses at the town hall. The first of which is coming up on August 20th from 10 to 1. Wednesday. What I'll do is actually forward this email to you. It's really been in the town update that Carissa has sent, but I just pulled out this because it also has the link to where the documents are if you want to take a look at those. So we invite people, and obviously, even though the town is responsible for doing its zoning independently for the town outside the village, and none of the zoning that we're contemplating should directly affect the village, because you have your own zoning. I still invite people from the village, if they choose to come and learn about it. And as you probably know, friends, neighbors, family that may be in the town itself. So up on our meeting that's scheduled for tomorrow night, and actually, pardon me, but I'm gonna actually look at our agenda briefly to see, remind me what's going on. And we've got, it's the time of year, the town is beginning to get ready to do its budgeting process, because we work on a calendar year. And so that means in the summertime, we're sort of looking at what our year-end projections might be looking like, looking at the latest tax assessments to see what the value of our properties are, and then beginning the process of building a budget. And in anticipation of that, we are actually going to early adopt the tax cap override. We will be voting on it, I trust me. And we have had some fairly ancient parking regulations that were very vague and unclear, that have to do with if you park your car or vehicle on a town road, at what point does it become a danger for your emergency or snow removal vehicles? And, at what point might our town highway department be authorized to tow? And that became an issue that came to our attention about a couple of years ago, when the Black Diamond Trail opened. People were very anxious to take advantage of it, and a large section of the trail passes through the town. And there really aren't that many sort of planned cutouts where people can park. And so people are sort of like wedging themselves on the side of the road to be able to get on the trail and then come back. And the highway superintendent was thinking that he should be just towing all those cars, even though there wasn't a snow emergency or whatever. So we said, let's take a look. And so we've got an updated parking regulation and parking law that we're taking a look at. Mapping out our budget timeline. And apparently we're going to hear a report or maybe a request from Rotary. As you probably know, they're working with the fairground on a tree project, so we're going to hear some more about that in our meeting tomorrow night. So I think the biggest news is that our new planner, John Zepko, has started ZEPKO, and he has a tremendous amount of experience, and we're really pleased to have him. He's jumped right in. He has been a planner for a town in Saratoga County. He's been a planner in the county of Cayuga. He has he understands and actually does trainings on site plan review. So he got started in July and has already been working with our planning board on site plan reviews and that kind of thing. So we're pleased, and he'll be, along with our planning consultants, he'll be at the open house meetings on the zoning updates as well. And actually had suggested this format because he can see it move well in one of his other communities. So that's new. Though I don't think this can go in the newspaper quite yet. And it got it. We actually just got word today that the town of Ulysses has hit enough of the milestones in the Climate Smart Communities program that the state has organized to encourage more environmental responsibility and efficiency, that we are now have achieved the bronze status. So, but we can't tell anyone because the state is still planning an official announcement. But I know that those are, that is an area that you're interested in. So it is possible. What I couldn't decipher from the email is exactly what, there are some incentives and benefits that relate to that. And I'm not quite sure what this next level gets us. The first level that we had achieved got us a grant that we used, that we're actually using now to plan to upgrade our whole heating and cooling system in the town hall to make that both work properly and be more efficient when we get a new system. So there are some incentives for doing it apart from the planet and our community and doing the right thing. So that is hot off the press today. So that's probably plenty, unless people have questions. Ben and I will be meeting with the youth commission this week, actually, to look at, is it this week? Yes. Yeah, I think so. To keep sort of moving the question of sort of recommending and sort of how we can maximize our resources in terms of access and diversity programming. So, any questions?
Questions for Nancy? Thanks, Nancy.
Sure. Let me just one last thing. Sorry. I mean, I did complete for the town using data both from Brian Snyder and MedX, a little profile comparison from last year to this year about sort of numbers of calls that the town has paid for, the village has responded to the DMS. I'm going to share that with the town board member. It's a quick and dirty little spreadsheet, but if anybody is interested, I can certainly have to share it with you.
I'd be interested.
Okay. I'll pass that along. We were dealing with a little bit of apples and oranges on some of the data, and sort of did the best we could to sort of track what we use and why. Thanks.
And the red light's on the mute button, is that good or bad?
It's good. As long as it's not blinking.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
Something more to show the rest of it. Is that?
Yeah, it is.
you were live, that's okay.
Yes, we're sharing this great
Yes.
within our community.
I think our live should be qualified.
All right, we
There's no
will.
one watching this.
Joe, what time do you have to leave?
5 minutes or so.
Okay. So we're gonna move along to the board reports. We'll interrupt when Jeff from Line Bike shows up. I think because Joe's here, we'll move police up. So Keith can do the honors while Joe is actually here. If that's okay with everyone. So Keith, take it away.
Well, I'd like to, I think everyone had a chance to meet Joe. I've had a pleasure of meeting with Joe several times over the last few weeks throughout this interview process for our new chief. And I'm very confident he will be an excellent new chief. It's always a good sign when people from outside your community, step up and say, you're right on to consider this guy for this position. So Joe has a great reputation all over the region, and I'm really impressed with his commitment to community policing. So a lot of the programs he's been involved with during his time with state police. And so I'd like to formally move that we vote to name Joe Nelson the next chief of police for the village of Trumansburg.
I'd like to second that.
With a friendly amendment for Joe's formal name, which shall not be spoken.
Or?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll just say that we are going to have a ceremonial swearing in tomorrow at 10 a.m. here in this room. We are limited to a capacity of 60 according to our fire chief, so we'll probably test that number just in Joe's immediate family. But if any, it is open to the public. It is, as I say, ceremonial in nature, so we won't be doing press conference Q&A type stuff, but if anybody wants to be here, you're certainly welcome. 10 a.m. Tammy's in charge of light refreshments. So we have a
PTO.
What's that?
Isn't she on vacation?
She's on vacation. She's coming in just.
That's why the refreshments are light. Be heavy refreshments if she's.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, then please all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations, sir.
I just want to say thank you, and I guess we'll further discuss things tomorrow. I appreciate your time. I can be short, but my son is at football practice that finishes shortly over at high school, so I can't pick him up. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. I'm glad you could.
Or tell him you survived the rest. Tell him you survived the program. All right.
Thanks for making the time.
All right, thank you.
We'll see you in the morning.
All right.
See you.
Well, there's some good timing right there. We can finish the rest of your items and then we'll go to Jeff.
Or we can jump to Jeff. Doesn't matter to me. It's up to you.
Floor is yours, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good.
Let me open up my stats here.
So just so everyone knows, we did ask Jeff from Line Bike to come back to our August meeting. It's been not quite 2 full months.
Quick 2 months.
It was right before Grassroots, so about 6 weeks
Before Sports Fest.
before Porch Fest. So we are coming up on 2 months.
Yeah.
I asked Jeff to come back and just kind of give us an overview on some stats in terms of daily rides, usage, and whatnot. So, Jeff, it's all yours.
Okay. Just taking 1 second to load this here, so I can give you all the up-to-date information. Okay, here we go. So, as of today, we have accumulated 1,132 rides that have started directly in downtown Trumansburg area, which we then extended a little bit to the fairgrounds, so that also includes Trumansburg. We've had 469 individual users, so that's a pretty good amount, given the total number of people that live here. It ranks pretty high. We've traveled 1,248 miles across the village, and our average trip is just under half a mile, 0.4, and median time that people are riding bikes is for 12 minutes, which is across the board for us, the half-mile trip at a 12-minute ride time, or right in line, company-wide, with all of our other areas that we work in. Trumansburg is one, if not the most rural small town that we have in all of our ranks. We're up to about 84 cities as of today. So it's been very interesting to see how it's gone here. For me, obviously grassroots was our high in terms of daily rides. On the Saturday of grassroots, we had about 175 rides in one day, which is basically just from around town or shopping or going to the gas station, back to the fairgrounds and back and forth. And many of those rides, more than half of them, are after midnight. So people are leaving the festival at night, looking for a way to get home or get back to their car potentially. I know this was the first year that they did the sort of across the way parking situation, so that was kind of new and different for everybody. We put a lot of bikes over there to start. Not a lot of those bikes actually made it to the fairgrounds. The path from there to the front entrance of the fairgrounds is a little bit odd. It's through the woods. It's a kind of a weird path. It wasn't ideal for biking, so that wasn't the best way. But almost everybody that we were able to get to the front of the fairgrounds was used and taken from there as the main starting point. 90% of the rides all started from the main entrance. There was only about maybe 15 or 20 bikes total over the whole weekend that actually made it inside. They had told me originally when we were thinking about how to do it that no bikes were allowed inside at all. Obviously, I was there for most of it. That wasn't the case. There were plenty of bikes in there in general, and about 20 or so of my bikes here and there. Anytime that we came across bikes, me, myself, and my staff that were in the fairgrounds, we pulled them out immediately and brought them right back to the front. It wasn't like we let somebody else would take them up from there. There were a few other rides that started at the back entrance that went down Rabbit Run and to Gannett Falls Park as well. On average, so the average is a little bit skewed because obviously we didn't have those 4 days in a row where we had about 150, 160 average. We did about 80 the day of Porch Fest, the very first day we started. But on average, our weekly average is generally pretty low. Some days we see as few as 4 trips in general. After grassroots, we reduced the total number of bikes downtown. I think we started with 40 originally. To grassroots, we brought another 40. And now downtown on a daily basis, this morning I think I had 23 or 20 possibly with all lines. But we're seeing on a good day, we'll see 12 trips or 14 trips. On a slow day, we see 4 trips or 6 trips. A few of them, 2 or 3 of them, are basically the same every single day. We see it at the same exact time. Someone's getting off work and riding in the same direction. Someone's getting on biking home every day. A few have made it out up the hill, heading out towards like all the estates up there in that direction. We've even started some there that have made their way back to town. For the most part, the starting places are all right here on Main Street there. And as far as other information that I have to share, I can tell you right now today we have 21 bikes that were online today. Not that there haven't been any complaints, but as for the most part, complaints that have actually made it through the customer service project that have come to my attention that needed immediate, somebody dispatched immediately. There's literally been one of those the entire time. A few grassroots related things, were a little irregular, but on a daily basis, everything has been able to be solved by either just our regular staffers here in town who's dealing with it on a daily basis, or getting feedback locally and taking care of it that way, which is excellent. That a lot hasn't gone for customer service. A lot of other cities that we're in, daily there's sometimes dozens of calls that go through customer service and have to be dispatched to a manager, and then team has to be sent out to do whatever it is that they need to do in their case. But in general, it's been very well received, and I'm not sure exactly what winter plan will be. Obviously, on slow days, we're seeing 6 or 4 rides. Usually get into the winter. We're a week away from the students all coming back to town in Ithaca. I'm not sure if that's going to have any effect on ridership here. We'll certainly we'll take a look and see what that is. Hopefully it will at least be steady. I know you have the what's it called, the Juniper Fair. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I imagine that that weekend will also be a busier than average weekend as well. And we'll bring some bikes up to the fairgrounds to start up there as well. Hopefully people can ride back and forth from town. I was parking on South Street and riding to the fairgrounds for the whole weekend on a bike. I was great. It was easy, super fun for us to park. You don't have to deal with all the cars and traffic or the $20 parking or any of that. And it's a 5-minute nice ride in. So that actually was very effective in terms of getting back and forth.
Any questions?
Any other
Questions for Jeff?
Moving forward, 21 bikes is sort of where you are now. Do you feel like that's a settled number, or is that, like, the impression I got is sort of it's always in flux?
Yeah, like I said, we're collecting data every day. So if all of a sudden we start seeing 21 rides a day starting tomorrow, then we'll be more, we can bring more bikes out to address that. If it continues to be 4 or 6 rides a day, then I'm not going to be too crazy if that 21 turns into 15 and people bring back to FBR, bring on the trail and they end up going back.
So it may go down somewhat if ridership sort of stays where it is.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately there is no magic number. It's what the usage is, and we can adjust that, variably and on the fly, and even on a daily basis. So we occasionally have our bikes have been online now going on 4 months. We have a few of our own maintenance issues with bikes that cause someone to go offline. But if 2 of them go offline, we come and pick them up. I don't feel like we have to rush 2 more bikes back out here because we're going to lose rides right now.
I'm just trying to get an idea, if it stays stable as far as rides per day.
Yeah.
Is 20, that's like.
That seems like about the right amount. I would guess that seems like the right amount. We've got a few up, by the school. It'd be interesting to see. I know last year in the spring and summer, after we had rolled out a ton of Ithaca high school, students rode bikes to and from school. And so the school's already done when we came here, so that could be back to school and the high school students that are using them as well. So we can see if it turns out that that's a popular thing that people are, then maybe more bikes would be needed, to serve that.
Is there like a general ratio that the company operates at the rides and bikes?
No, the only magic number that we have is what we call total rides per vehicle per day, TPD. And for pedal bikes, in a truly sustainable market, for pedal bikes, it should be 1. Basically, if you have 20 bikes, you should have 20 rides per day. That's a real market that can have long-term success. But given that this market, from an operations standpoint, is operating basically as an offshoot of Ithaca. Ithaca's TPD averages close to 2 some days, 1.5 on average. There's a little bit more leeway to be in some of the more smaller towns, which is we're sort of seeing in this area how that works and seeing if that can be applied to other suburbs and other smaller towns. Most of the other cities that we're in are pretty big. Even Ithaca is small compared to most of the other cities that we're in. So this whole area is kind of like, we're just like looking at the data and look at that. This works or this doesn't. And we want to figure out what the best solution is. Ultimately, we released our company's 1-year report, and one of the most important pieces of data that came out of that was that 25% of all of our rides, of the 7 million rides company-wide, are either to or from mass transit. And so that's sort of like complete proof of concept of one of the biggest gaps, transportation gaps that most cities have. So that people can get onto a bus, but where the bus lets them off isn't necessarily where they need to go. And so that's one of the biggest areas that we're serving. Good question.
Is there a motorized version to consider?
Yeah.
And is there an adult tricycle option?
Okay, so motorized versions, we have e-bikes and we have electric scooters in our fleet that we have in many other cities. Currently, the way that New York State's law is written, neither one of those vehicles is technically legal by the definition of the law. We would love to change that, and if we can do that, we certainly would be adding, at the very least, electric bikes to our fleet right away. Potentially, as we move forward in some of the bigger cities, some of the electric scooters. As far as trikes are concerned, we don't currently produce a 3-wheeled vehicle. We sort of are, for our long-term company plans, we sort of skipped over that, and we're thinking more of a 4-wheeled sort of electric pod kind of car thing for future use that we're in very early development. They have some of those in some of the Chinese cities where they have them. They're basically just little electric cars that work the same way. You unlock them with your phone, You get in, it has enough room for one person, and you dock your phone and your map comes up on a little screen, and you put your, you can have your groceries, your stuff down, and you ride and plug it in when you get home.
Of course, one is, you mentioned high school. It looks like your user agreement requires you to be 18 years of age or have a parental agreement, and in which case you can be 16 years of age. At least that's what I have on my website. Is that true?
No, it's 16 as far as I know. 16 bikes, 18 for the scooters.
Okay, it's not, maybe I'll refresh my.
In New York City, you have to be 16 years old to have a credit card. You have to have a credit card to open an account.
Right.
So that's kind of where we do the line on that. Obviously, there's many parents who give their credit cards to their kids to create an account on their phone, and we haven't had any issues with that as far as that's concerned.
Do you have any concern about kids younger than 16 in this case having access to their parents' credit cards, and then if they get into an accident, they're not under the age ordinance because they're using their English.
That's generally right, although that would be on their parents' permission if it's their parents' credit card. That they're allowed. I mean, obviously, if they stole their parents' credit card, that's a different kind of issue. But if their parents are willingly giving them an account and giving them access, the assumption in that chain of thought is that they would understand the user agreement what some of the risks with that would be.
And then, do you, I guess I tried to get through some questions to your online help desk there, that they were able to answer. Are you currently, if I rent a line, like, are you charging any tax at all at this point for use?
No.
So there's no tax.
No. Yeah, those are tax and all. We still have the way that it was set up initially when we first rolled out was you can download the app and you can basically put in a phone number and unlock a button and get your free ride without even putting in a credit card initially. You sort of do that as like an introductory kind of way to get people involved. That operated for a few weeks when we started. Now when you download the app, in order to create a lock bike at all, you have to have a credit card number. So that sort of like tightens up the security on a number of levels for us. In many cities, in any cities that have electric vehicles, which we currently don't, the way that works is you can no longer just put in your credit card and then unlock and pay as you go. You have to prepay increments of $5 or $10 or $20 because the electric vehicles cost a little bit more. So the $1 unlock is only basically good for a minute in that case, and it's 15 cents per minute for the electric vehicles. And so we require a prepay little chunks of.
Like a security deposit.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like you're not going to use it for 1 minute. And so instead of debiting everybody's account and then trying to get it, we just have to prepay. But that's currently not enabled in this area.
What TBD stands for again?
It's TVD, it's total rides per vehicle per day. It's like, this company, and I'm sure lots of other companies have tons of like other acronyms for stuff. When I first joined, I didn't come from that kind of background where these startup companies decided what they all were. And they kept saying it over and over again, and I kept like having to go to like Urban Dictionary. Is this what we need? Is this what we need? TBD is our standard metric for that.
Jeff, I don't know if you marked it. Did you notice, you said during grassroots, most of the trips originated from the fairgrounds?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Do you know where those trips ended?
The ending places were much more varied. Some of them were to the parking lot, some of them were all the way back to town. There was no like central ending spot, whereas there was obviously a central beginning spot. And I did frankly pour over that data with a fine-tooth comb, which we certainly could, but I generally don't have that much time for the deep analysis or stuff like that.
Yeah, I only asked, I was generally curious if the rides were, grassroots was bringing riders into downtown, if we would see that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a number of the bikes went to downtown. My guess is, given the time of day, that it was probably more like the people going home who already lives here than random. I mean, basically on that Friday and Saturday night, every bike that was at the front of the fairgrounds at that, when the last band finished, was taken. Both nights. Started off both the next morning with 0 bikes there, so.
Any other questions for Jeff?
Thanks.
All right, thank you. We'll be in touch about kind of maybe a quarterly report, something to
Yeah.
just
I mean,
keep us up to speed on
We'll
usage.
certainly be interesting, like I said, when school starts here in the next few weeks here, at the beginning of September, we'll see if there's an uptick with ridership from kids going to school and coming back. There certainly could be, and if there is, great. And if it turns out that they're not using it at all, and we get closer and closer to the winter, maybe a dozen bikes downtown and be all that we'll be able to manage, over the cold winter, city.
So that reminds me of one more question. What generally do you think the plan is for winter? Just to.
Sure, our overall plan for winter is that we have to be, there's a lot of bike moving around, especially weather related. There's certain days when we know it's going to snow, potentially for long. There'll be a lot of nighttime operations where we'll have to send our guys out with the vans and pick stuff up and move stuff around and just deal with it. In general, I imagine that we'll have overall less number of bikes out everywhere in the winter than we do here, especially in stretches where it's minus 20 degrees and or snowing.
Right.
But even on our worst days that we've had in Ithaca so far, pouring raining days like even today, or even we had those 3 days last week, that are raining the whole entire day, we still saw about 165 rides. And so that data is consistent with the minimum amount of people that are truly reliant on those bikes to get from one place to another and are willing to do so even in the rain or in bad weather. And so you can ride a bike when it's cold out. You can put gloves on, you have a hat. You actually will get warmer than you can walk. And so the cold shouldn't be too bad of a deterrent, but certainly ice and snow will be. And so we'll have to just keep an eye on that.
So, have there been any accidents here locally or in Ithaca, bikes and riders and cars?
There's been an incident of a car that crashed into a park bike. That's the only one that I've really been made aware of. It was a call from an insurance company. They were willing to pay us for the bike, but we let that claim out. We're not looking for that. We were just glad he was injured. It was late at night. He swerved from a cat and this was in Fall Creek. And cat ran across the road and they swerved and they went to a man over a park. So that's the only car-bike incident that I'm aware of at this time. And in Ithaca, we're getting very close to our 50,000th ride, which is probably Thursday.
And I guess it'd be the nature of
Yeah, I would say it's hard to know from what I've seen. I would guess it's closer to 50-50. Maybe a little bit less. It's really hard to tell, but it's certainly not required. We do still have free helmets that are available to people that want them. They just can go into the Bike Walk Tompkins office, which is in DeWitt Mall, tell them that they're interested in riding bikes and they don't have a helmet, and they'll fit them and give them a free one there.
Does it need to be a separate MOU with the school district for bikes to go on?
What's that?
That's a
I'm wondering
Jeff,
if
that's a
there
Jeff
needs-
problem.
Sorry, I'm wondering if there needs to be a separate MOU for bikes to be on school property.
It all depends. In many cities, there's not. But in certain cases, there are. And so a lot depends on what the expectation of the school is in terms of what they'd like to see happen. But generally speaking, what we saw, I can use it for high school as a great example. We're seeing last spring, we were seeing as many as 25 or 30 bikes riding there in the morning from Fall Creek from downtown. Basically, the bikes were sort of there until 2 o'clock, and then they all disappeared. So there wasn't too many issues. We went on IHS campus a number of times during the day. We saw bikes that were kicked over that we picked up. We straightened them up if they were, appeared to be messy. school right in the hallway, but that was on a prank day. And then the Ithaca High School senior prank, they parked 117 line bikes in the parking lot for their senior prank, which was very nice. They all drove there between 12:15 and 1:30 a.m. And we woke up in the morning, there was no bikes downtown, we looked at the map, and they were all in the parking lot of IHS. So, but IHS never commented or never said anything to us. You know, we would be happy to work with them, and if certainly Humans Schools wants a separate agreement to, you know, to do anything, we would certainly look at that, but at the moment, there's no plan for that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks guys, appreciate it. And you guys all have, you know, or most of you have my, you know, direct information, if there's any other issues or any other questions, I'm pretty easy to get out of that.
Thank you. All right, Keith, we'll go back to you to finish up.
Okay. So an update on our Safe Spot program. Made some really good progress. In the Dropbox, there's a PDF and slides that essentially lay out the program. And I'm happy to share that more broadly if so desired, the website or whatever it may be. But basically just kind of takes you through the background, why we want to establish it. And it's essentially because schools and communities are realizing they want to be more aware of issues like runaways, bullying, anxiety, drugs, homeless youth, sexual assault. And you know, while school districts and households can really offer guidance on all of this, there's a chunk of time in between where our youth are walking the streets and they may have issues. So as we're trying to tap more into the consciousness of just being aware of some of these issues that might pop up, we want to establish safe spots in different businesses in the village with signage in their windows, and essentially lets kids and adults even who are feeling unsafe in their environment or in distress or whatever the problem may be, they'll see these signs and they'll know that this is a place where they can go and get assistance. I've brought this up at the chamber a couple months ago, and the last chamber meeting last week, we talked more in depth about it and have some early adopters, including Atlas, Gimme Coffee, Good to Go, and probably the library. One of the things we'll have to stress in marketing this program is that this is not a daycare service. You cannot drop children off at a safe spot and have the baristas say, keep an eye on them. And that's something that the library already struggles with. So people already kind of tend to think of the library as a daycare center at times. So they were a little squeamish to jump right into this, but they want to help. They just want to talk more about it. Other locations I've identified with the help of the chamber are Synergy, Pittsburgh Family Medicine, Tompkins Trust, and the Historical Society. They have not been approached yet, but they are on our, I think we have at least 3 or 4 storefronts that will be, that offer a wide variety of open times and open days. And the one other thing that really came out of the most recent discussion is to make sure that these businesses that opt in have a sort of checklist or guidelines on how to handle someone that comes in. Some of the owners were a little afraid that they wouldn't be there and then one of their workers would have to help someone and they might not really know how to go about it. So we're working on kind of this checklist to go through when somebody comes in. Here's what you do. Here's your contact, here's a glass of water, find them a nice place to sit. And so I emailed the county social services to kind of see if they have any input on that. You know, what is an ideal? Because we don't want workers to feel liable to administer any kind of counseling service, but we just want to make sure to touch base with the police department and that it's going to be pushed forward. In this slide deck, you'll see 4 kind of rough versions of potential logos that Q Cassetti was nice enough to design for me. So those just kind of some early looks at what our sign might look like. And so kind of the moving forward, the TCSD will finalize the guidelines for the first participants, establish our final version of the sign, print the signs, get official agreement from the participants and deliver those signs and packets of guidelines to them. And then it becomes a matter of marketing the program, making sure people are fully aware that it exists. It's easy to just hang signs in windows, but if parents and the school district are not reminding everyone that this is a thing, that it could go underutilized. So we want to make sure we're marketing it on our website, social media, village email list, and throughout the school campus. After that, just probably do some data tracking in terms of number of uses, solicit participant feedback, and then review how the procedure is working. Our date for launch, I've set at Monday, September 10th, which is a few days after the school year begins. So hoping to get all of these loose ends tied up by then.
Good.
Nancy mentioned we have a youth commission meetings there too.
Oh, good.
Maybe we could listen to feedback. I don't know for a lot of time at that meeting, but at least in the next couple months.
Also, Keith, an organization in Ithaca that actually deals with runaway and homeless kids might actually be a more practical resource for you in terms of sort of that checklist of guides.
Sure.
The Family and Children's Service has a program, I think it's called Open Doors now, and they just hired someone who actually was out putting flyers and making connections so that people at the town youth program and school knew about their services to be able to make referrals if needed. But my guess is that they would probably welcome hearing about the initiative and also be a resource. And I believe that they're, by virtue of the funding that they're getting, have to have like a 24-hour contact number. So that might also be.
Yeah, I think in our last one we discussed there is kind of the next level of program that would include texting for help, 24/7 counseling, text counseling, phone service counseling, and that requires a much larger investment from the community. But I think those would be good places to start.
Yeah, minimally, almost, the 211 program that's run on the Human Service Coalition has magnets, so even if somebody didn't know, that it's available, that's also 24 hours. It's not a counseling, but it's an information referral service to local services.
And Keith, my name's Sean Wortis. I'm on the board for the USA Scholastic Library.
Oh,
I had done part of it for you.
That's okay.
I don't know if you mentioned the library, but that might be another participating
Yeah,
in the community.
Yeah.
It's really a focal point, especially for kids coming out of school with their own type of thing.
Yeah.
After school.
Yeah, we've talked with them, and I was just saying they were just a little bit nervous of being further seen as a drop-off service for kids. So
Right.
I think they want to be part of it in some capacity. They just want to make sure that they know and we know what their limitations are. But, yeah, thank you.
Might actually do that with a little
You got that?
What? No, sorry.
I mentioned it was all.
Oh.
So yeah, we can have Village Hall.
Any other questions or comments for Keith? All right, anything else from TCOG or TACC?
So TCOG, will just mention that the whole last meeting was basically devoted to a visit from county planning and sustainability. And they seem very open to helping surrounding municipalities with planning related services. We had a lot of municipalities struggle to have their own kind of part or full-time planner, as well as offer training to board members and clerks and other services like that, mapping services. So I'm going to write up a summary of that meeting, get more in depth with those points. So I don't want to spend all of our time putting everyone to sleep. John's already nodding off during the speech. So I'll elaborate more on that, but the good news is, if we're looking for planning consulting, they're very interested in, I think, helping out. And they're looking for people to invite them to their meetings and all that stuff, so we can talk more about that. Basically, in terms of the state charitable trust deductions for municipalities, I think everyone but the city of Ithaca has decided not to touch it, just because it looks like the IRS is probably not going to really allow it. And even the city of Ithaca, hearing them talk about it, they have kind of just said we're going to allow it, but not really understand how it works, and that's going to help to our residents to know. And I don't know if that's a great strategy, but that's their strategy. And I think that's about it. Our next meeting this month, we're going to be talking more about cable and franchise agreements, and probably take a hard look at things like the harmful algal blooms we're seeing in the lake, and talk to municipalities on how we might be able to help remedy that with what's happening with runoff and stuff like that. So I'll leave it there. The chamber was just mostly the safe spot discussion, as well as they asked all the members to look to see if the bike race impacted their businesses. So I think in the next meeting we'll hear from them to see if they saw an uptick. I'm guessing the inclement weather that helped that, unfortunately, but they're definitely thinking along those lines. So I'll have more on that.
Ben, fire and
I got so
et
many
cetera, et cetera.
Yes, et cetera, et cetera. All right, I'll start with these comprehensive plan zoning revision meeting. We had our first meeting last month. Not too much was done. We were just kind of meet and greet, getting to know everyone who was there. We're going to kind of set up the vision that we have for that program, which you mentioned here before, so I don't go too far into. RFPs for that work from outside firms, and we're kind of reviewing those as the committee and looking to schedule our next meeting towards the end of the month. So that's what's going on there. Not too much, but starting off with a good foot. On fire, there are a couple of conversations that Jason wanted to have. I put a doc in the Dropbox regarding a couple pieces of equipment that he'd like to purchase. We should talk through. The first one is a chief's vehicle. He's looking at two options. There's a new Tahoe I'm bringing it up now, for $36,000 plus adding on the pieces that need lights and radio and whatnot. It's just shy of $46,000. There's also a used Tahoe. 2015 Tahoe for $35,000, so only $1,000 less, but it also has some of the lights already installed, so it's a little cheaper on that part. So the total bill is just shy of $40,000. He wanted us to have a conversation of which way we'd like him to go on that decision. In that document, I just pulled some numbers. Of like the list price for a new Tahoe and the kind of used price for my computer's being all weird on me. But it looked to me like the new price was a really competitive price. So I was kind of leaning in that direction, but I'm also very interested to know if other people have thoughts on this. Just to add to that, the we have in reserve just a little bit more than 31,000. So the idea is to buy one of these with that amount, borrowing the rest from the apparatus reserve that we have, and then paying that back once we sell off the current Tahoe. So that's a lot there. I've only just wrapped my head around it, but I'm going to answer questions if anyone has any, or your input, ideas for other folks. If they've got any kind of opinion on that.
Is there a reason it's always a Tahoe? I mean, I know that's what we got used the last time, but does it have to be a Tahoe?
Don't know. I did not question that part of it.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know the difference in pricing between that type of vehicle, but maybe there's another out there.
Is that the official truck of fire chiefs in America?
Well, it seems to be the official truck of Lansing, and then we tend to get their hand-me-downs. That's how I understood it. But
Sorry?
so we did recently purchase a used one from Lansing. It was a 2008. We bought it used in 2016 from them. And so the Jason would like to see it on a 5-year replacement schedule. That's another conversation we can have to basically keep vehicle maintenance costs down.
What's the mileage on the 08?
I have not gotten that from him.
And he may have sent that to me and I just don't remember it.
I've not seen that. He said he was getting a range of 10 to 15,000 for it to be sold off, but I don't know what the mileage is.
So I think the set replacement cycle is important to come up with. How that relates to mileage is important depending on whether we buy new or used. Because your maintenance costs are certainly going to start going up after 50 or 60,000 miles on anything.
Yeah.
Other comments or thoughts? How to proceed?
I think that 5 years is a pretty short replacement schedule, and I can't imagine that the mileage is that high, but we need the data.
So line, I'm just trying to find where it is on the budget.
Is the utility vehicle line? I don't know the number.
I'm sorry,
I don't know.
Utility vehicle line is the one for
Yeah.
yes,
Chiefs, and that's only the Chiefs truck.
yes.
It's a 31,213.
So not the other pickup that tows the utility vehicle.
Well, yes, it would be that. I mean, that was the chief's truck, and when they decided that was supposed to be stay with the,
Right. Well, I'm just trying to remember, I remember discussing this, how if we were going to switch that to the apparatus line.
and that's what the assistant chief has been driving.
So then you want to go back?
So I'll get the mileage. Anything else that we'd like to get from Jason? And clarification, I guess, on what budget line?
Because at this point,
My impression is from that utility line, but I guess the question then is, are we sure that the pickup truck is now on the apparatus line?
No, it's not.
It's not,
I
they
think
were
it
both
is.
on
I
the
think they're
same.
both on that, and they were $5,000 historically, has been the number, so, I mean. if we're
$5,000
putting-
a year, you're saying?
Yeah, so if we're putting both of those, I mean, that's,
Right, that doesn't work. Those numbers don't work.
that math is not.
All right, so I can ask,
And then we would need a justification of the 5-year replacement cycle before buying new.
Mhm.
It's going to depend a lot on how many miles a year we can put on, what kind of miles they are.
Justification even if it's used.
Well, if you buy a used one, there's 50,000 miles on it, then 5 years in, it's going to have a lot more.
all right. So I will get clarity on the mileage and then some more clarity on the replacement cycle and that budget line and how those not just the chief's vehicle, but the pickup all kind of interact in there. Great.
It is top location for it.
And it's tough, yeah.
It's a lot of trips.
That's what police vehicles usually are.
The sheriff's department has Explorers. We have Explorers. There are a lot of, well, IBA and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Then one of the other questions you might ask is, I mean, the Tahoe was originally equipped to be a fly car that could have transported someone and provide, almost like a mini ambulance. I know that Jason took all of that out so that it could function that way. But again, depending on really what needs to go in it, I think that's the size of what you need. And if you're trying to be funds on it, you might want a vehicle that's a little more efficient.
They do a plug-in model for cheap strips. Probably not thinking.
Yeah. They make an $80,000 hybrid.
Oh. They don't check it.
Just in case.
So, let's see, there was also, I won't bring this up officially, but just to give a heads up, Jason's also interested in looking to replace some of our pagers. I guess there's a deal this month and next, when the pagers are getting pretty old. And so he's looking to get me more information on that, and I'll probably do that in September.
Okay.
And then the last piece is an update on the clean energy initiative that Nancy was kind of mentioning. So we're looking at a slightly different one for the village right now, which is the Clean Energy Communities Program. We need to get 4 out of 10 high impact actions for that. We have just recently received our 3rd checkbox. There was a resolution passed during the last board session that they didn't get notice of, or they dropped somewhere along the line, and so I resubmitted that, and that's been approved. So we're now looking for our last and final kind of box to check. There's pretty much 2 ways that can go about happening. One is looking at replacing our streetlights with LEDs, and Keith is kind of taking point on that. That can happen 1 of 2 ways. Either we can buy back the streetlights and then we can replace them ourselves, or we could continue to have NYSEG maintain them. We'll just continue our lease with NYSEG, but we could pay them to switch over to LEDs. So we're looking to get quotes on both that work. And then Terry at Cooperative Extension is looking to, can help us run the numbers on like what's the payback on this, and then give us some kind of information on that. Go for it.
I don't know, I think Ulysses is doing this, but Ithaca offered to, for small fee, City of Ithaca to replace the light bulbs because they have the equipment.
Right, I think they would help service them, if I understand. Yeah, it might depend on, I mean, if we own them, if we purchase them back.
Right.
I think, so I was talking with Deb, we manage some of the streetlights on Main Street already, so our DPW might be able to handle that as well, so but I'm aware of the, so.
But it was a TCAP initiative, and Liz was very involved.
So,
Didn't we already ask NYSEG if we was buying back, can we do that?
Yes,
Several
we,
times, I thought.
yeah, so
The
Keith says,
process started a long time ago.
Yeah, and then we
It's
replaced.
sort of circling back.
Okay.
so the one hiccup is they say they've still been waiting on a confidentiality and assurance agreement from us. We've said that we've sent that, but they still say they don't have it, so we're gonna send again. I also asked for, they're also starting to work the numbers for us on this other program, which is the streetlight conversion program, so we can compare cost essentially to what makes most sense for us in the village. So we'll get essentially 2 proposals from them, and we can decide which one makes the most sense.
and talking with Terry at Cooperative Extension, it sounds like most of these programs pay back over time anyhow, so it's kind of in our best interest even outside of this program that we might want to pursue that stuff. The other piece would be showing a reduction of 10% in our greenhouse gas emissions since 2014, 2015. I gave Terry our gas and electric bills for the wastewater treatment plant over the past couple of years. And he looked in that, and it looks like that might get us about halfway or a little bit more toward that goal, but we'd still fall short from just that project. That was kind of our hope, that maybe just in that project it would bump us over the 10%. So the next steps to try and go down that path are kind of twofold. One is there's a program through NICEAG where they'll send out someone to do a review of converting indoor lighting and like external lighting to buildings over, and then also potentially cover up to 70% of that cost to switch over. So if that sounds like something we'd be interested in at least just getting the information on, I can go ahead and ask Tammy to kind of start the ball rolling on that as well. So that's one thing I want to bring up here. The other part would be thinking about, as we're looking at the Village Hall boiler replacement. So I took a tour with Tom and kind of looked around downstairs and saw what's kind of going on. There's also a report from Tatum that they took a look at everything 8 years ago or so. And their thought at the time was that not only was the boiler was kind of getting along at that point, but clearly it's old now. But the distribution system is also not great, and it gets, we've got some hot rooms, some cold rooms, people are supplementing with electric heat in different places. So the thought there is that if we replace the boiler, it's not really going to get us all the way back like to a great system. We really have to deal with the kind of distribution as well. So with that all in mind, the thought is, would an air source heat pump system for the Village Hall make more sense? What would the price look like for that? So to that, on that front, Cooperative Extension and Tatum are working together, hopefully this month, maybe next, to start our program that they would come in and do an energy audit for us and would give us more of the information to get either a quote from them or the information we would need to get some quotes on what that would look like. So those are the kind of two prongs of what we can do to try and get that next 10%.
We are less than 4 months away from needing heat in this building again.
Yeah, so I'd love to know what issues we've run into, or is it just that like
Oh,
it's
I'm
on its
saying
last
you
leg?
can ask the people, it doesn't work.
It's-
And it's funny because it'll be fine one day
Mhm.
and we'll come in the morning and it'll be, 45, 50 degrees.
I mean, we've been kicking the can down the road for a couple of years now on that boiler.
Yeah,
So I'm all in favor of the energy audit and seeing what can be done larger in the building, which might tie into concepts about this building as a whole
right.
and whether we're still here in 10 years kind of thing. But I think we need to get that boiler replaced or approve its replacement next month in September.
Yeah.
So I know we're waiting on a couple of quotes and whatnot, but
Well, we'll see if I can get a quote by then. There's a chance that might happen, and we can bring that to the table and have a discussion about that. I mean, that's kind of where I've been aiming for at this point, so we'll see if we can make that happen. As far as getting someone from NICEAG to come take a look at the lights and see what that would look like, any objections to me having Tammy just go ahead with that. I think that's it for me. Yeah. Oh, the ramp is under new business, so we'll talk about that.
any board questions for Ben?
Good teaser.
Coming soon, the ramp.
Stick around for the ramp talk.
I think we'll take a moment to pause there. I see Ann is settled in and has a list of things she wants to tell us all about. So we'll go back to our reports from representatives whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
No problem.
Not a whole lot on my list today. One of the things is the airport renovations and expansion are coming along pretty quickly. The governor's pushing that stuff along pretty quickly. Possibly to do with this as an election year, I'm not sure, but, and so there'll be a series of like presentations or, as we go along, with the governor coming and, getting all kinds of accolades and things like that. But we are gonna be starting different services, heard about that, like service to Chicago's already started, Charlotte is coming up soon, in DC. DC, I think, starts October 4th, something like that. So that'll, part of the rationale is to get us into hubs outside of the Northeast so that it's not weather dependent. So, and we're also looking at getting bus shuttle service to the airports down in New York City or New Jersey. So like you can check in, your bags are checked, and then you're going down there, and your bags, you just go right on your flight versus going in and having to do it down there. So that's something that we're looking into. From the Public Safety Committee, they said there were no arrests at grassroots this year. The first time in 18 November, so they were really happy about that. So usually in July, the population in the jail bumps up, and it didn't this year. So congratulations on whatever people were doing, maybe because it didn't rain as much, I don't know. Something was going right. Pardon?
What they weren't doing.
Wow, I don't know, I heard things from inside, that things were going pretty good, so,
They all got on their line bikes.
yeah. Your county legislator might have gotten a ticket because the cops were so bored, because it had one little light out over my license plate during the grassroots, but other than that, it's not too bad. They were paying attention to something. So, we've had some meetings, some folks in the community have been talking about our Office of Human Rights. There's some rumors out there that we're trying to dismantle the Office of Human Rights. So we had a meeting with the Health and Human Services meeting today. It was a big meeting on that, which is why I was late. And we had a lot of people that spoke for almost 2 hours from the public. We had a lot of public comment and talked about a lot of different things. There was a comment. The only thing we can trace it back to from our end is that one legislator made a comment one day, months ago, that they thought that was an option, should we look at that? But it's not our intention, as far as I'm seeing, and as far as all the legislators I've talked to, we're not looking at dismantling the Office of Human Rights. That's about it.
Questions for Ed?
I didn't have to pay a fine.
All right, thanks, Ed.
It's reassuring to me at the local level, people are, even elected officials are not above the law, that's good. Sorry.
All right, EMS and youth, Ben.
I don't actually have much except obviously our executive session. As Nancy mentioned, we have a meeting on Thursday, so that would be, I'm hoping, we're moving towards something to bring to the board and sort of be actionable. That's really all I got.
Okay. DBW Water Sewer, Deb.
Okay, included in the Dropbox is the Camden report for the month. It is 100% within specs, so nothing to worry about there. Interesting to note that we actually have to, we have to do an extra pressing and an extra order to have the pressings taken away when Grassroots is in town. It's just a little extra waste in the wastewater treatment plant. Okay, we are ready to close out these projects. I believe that we have one change order in here that is a $5,000 credit. It was for the, came in $5,000 under for the HVAC system. And it's a change order. Do we just have to accept it? I don't think we have to do anything about it. You have to sign it.
No, I didn't even know it was in there.
Well, it is in the Dropbox. So
I would just like to, if you need to sign it, Gordon, I just want to move that we give Gordon the authority to sign it. My nothing on my credit.
So we have a motion and a second. Looks like from King and King Mechanical. And this is on the well system as part of the HVAC contract, is we are getting a credit back of $5,000. So if there's no discussion, then all in favor of accepting this change order, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay.
Other than that, I was out last week and Dusty's out this week, so our next meeting will be the following Friday.
I think Kristen, you can sign on Wednesday. Oh, Thursday this week. Okay.
So I had like a tickle in the back of my brain that when we switched to Camden, that the price was gonna increase over time.
It is.
That's already happened.
Mhm.
That was like the first couple months.
It's already been taken care of.
All right, yeah, I thought so. I thought it was fairly quick, but I couldn't.
It was minimal, I think it was
200?
Yeah, $200. I mean, it was less than 1%.
Just trying to jog my memory.
All right, any other questions for Deb? All right, next up is Vicky.
The AUD is completed on time. Other than that, Tammy's been out and it's been just busy, water billing, all that sort of stuff. I mean, the days are a blur. Unless you have, specific questions. We're gonna start closing on EFC probably late fall. Got our first round of paperwork for that.
Where are we close on the sidewalk project? Wasn't running that, but.
We should be getting probably one more bill from them, and then it should be completed.
Do you want to talk about the?
Yep. We have a normal contract from Perma, who does our workers' comp. I read through it, I mean, it's pretty easy. I assume you guys did, it's been in the Dropbox a while. And we just need to request that Warden sign it for, our insurance.
It's an addendum to the workers' comp policy. Adds some language about the members of our, it's our safety official, which is technically our DPW supervisor, but everything else is fairly similar to what was in the previous agreement. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to look at it or not.
I looked through it, but I hadn't studied the old agreement, so.
Any questions about the permanent addendum? Okay, then if not, then I would entertain a motion to authorize me to sign the addendum with our workers' comp and liability insurance company.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
The claims we see here.
Workers' comp? One?
Not usually any more than that.
One or two? I think of two
Pretty
last.
safe workplaces.
Relatively speaking.
Okay, great.
Physically anyway.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Anything else?
No, I honestly can't think of anything. I'm sure there is, but.
Our clerk is excused for her vacation time, although she has graciously agreed to come in tomorrow for Chief Nelson's swearing in. Under my report, as many or most of you know, Rick Geiger has stepped down as our planning board chair, although he has agreed to remain on the planning board. He has some family obligations that preclude him from being able to continue to take on the amount of work that the chair has. With vacancies, it is up to me to appoint the new chair. However, I have spent some time discussing it with the other members of this board who might be a good candidate. Had Rick resigned from the board, then we would have been faced with replacing his seat. But since he is remaining on, we simply need to pick from among the existing planning board members a new chair. I've had discussions with a couple of the planning board members, and again, as I say, with this board, and we're in agreement. So it is going to be my decision that effective immediately, the planning board chair will be Jessica Giles. Her role as chair begins today, and she will chair her first meeting at the end of the month, I believe. She will, for the moment, remain the chair of the Comp Plan and Zoning Revision Committee, unless or until we decide that the combined workload is too much. As Ben mentioned, our first meeting was really kind of a meet and greet and vision, review of the vision of that particular committee. She, in my conversations with her, she's eager to do both, but we will evaluate as we go along. The Comp Plan and Zoning Revision Committee is an ad hoc committee of this board, so we can move people on, off, or around at will. So that was item number one. Item number two for me is it is that time of year for us to apply for our deer management permit from New York State DEC. In the Dropbox for the board to review, and this will be on the website in the agenda packet tomorrow, we have the deer management report from last year. And I'll just briefly go over it. So last year and this coming September of 2018 would be the start of our 5th year with the Trumansburg Deer Management Program. Last year, year 4, ran from September of 17 until the end of March of 18. There were 13 participants. Of those 13 participants, or out of those 13 participants, there were a total of 52 deer that were harvested, 19 males, 33 females. That number is up from the previous 2 years. The prior year, 16-17, 31 deer were taken. 15-16, 2015-2016 season, if you want to call it that, only 27 deer were taken. The prior year, so 14-15, was our first year with the program, some 92 deer were taken. So we saw a sharp drop off from 92 the first year, down to 27, up to 31, and then up to 52 last year. You'll see in the report there's some additional statistics about distance to shoot. Looks like a couple of deer were shot at and lost. And so the basic program will remain the same. Most of the sites are the same. The oversight committee members and the folks who will be running it will be the same. Pat Miller from Larchmont, and of course Bernd Blassie from Cornell will continue to direct the program. There is a copy of the program itself, which has not changed at all other than the dates from last year, and all of this needs to be submitted along with the application to DEC. So unless there's any discussion or questions, certainly we can talk about it in any level that you have. If not, though, we do need a motion to authorize me to sign the deer damage permit application and send it off to DEC.
So moved. What are you smiling?
Deer damage.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Deer damage permit application.
I mean, euphemisms are fun, but
Then you get how many pounds of venison end up at the food bank? That's that.
That's a good question.
hungry hunters are.
So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yes.
Second. Friendly amendment to that, if it's all right, is authorizing the signing of the application as well as the approval of the deer management program for 2018-19. That's all right.
Accepted.
I'm just looking to see if we have, I don't think he has pounds. But I could ask.
What's your policy currently taking questions from the board during the
It's a good question.
Can you ask it? That's their question.
It's essentially up to the board. We can take them or not. Sure.
I don't have a question.
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. Sure, go ahead.
Have you heard anybody say that there aren't enough deer around versus everyone I hear talking about that there's way too many deer? They're chewing up everything.
Yeah.
So I think the numbers are looking good, but they're not anywhere near where they need to be.
I've never had anybody tell me we need more deer.
Good.
I would have hunters. I have heard hunters say that they're scarce.
I have heard hunters complain that they have had bad seasons.
But I do believe that within the realms of the village, there are way too many. Still,
Can you suggest to them that they hunt more, or is that up to them? Can you put a target of 300 deer?
Yeah, it's certainly up to them. It is a volunteer program, so I don't know that we can drive them to hunt more. They are all hand-picked individuals who are serious about their craft of bow hunting. So I don't know that they need much encouragement. 2 years ago, or was it 3? I forget which year. It was very, very cold for an extended period of time. So there was some drop off in participation. Bless you.
thank you.
Last year was much better.
Just for an idea for participants, how much time, I mean, it's 50 some deer, and what was the average, like 8 hours spent in a stand per deer? So it's a huge amount of time. That's what it is.
In December of 17, there was a total of 92 hours spent in the various program sites. That was the highest one.
So I remember at one point a while back, there was an ask for more locations from people who own the land if they want to open it up to be participated, to have a stand put there. So anyone's interested in helping out the program, that might be a way to do that. There are restrictions from how far from buildings you have to be and so on and so forth, but fresh new locations tend to be more productive, is my understanding.
I believe we are assigned.
Right.
We were assigned in the past. I was hoping we wouldn't have any deer problem, but we sure did.
I think the best estimates, and I don't know how we can be very accurate about this, but the best estimates are somewhere between 75 and 100 deer remain within the village limits at any time. And I'm certainly no expert on this, but those who are state that we should have anywhere from 8 to 12 per square mile. So we're a little over that. The village being 1.2 square miles, it's a pretty easy area to determine how many we should have. So we have a motion and a second. Any additional board discussion?
Is there a cap, the number of ownership? This is just the number of people that step forward.
There isn't. It's more, and it's less that they've stepped forward and more that they've been asked.
Oh.
A lot of it has to do with the desire for prowess.
Definitely on maturity. That's really the biggest criterion from my perspective. But that's
Does participants mean sites or hunters?
Hunters. They're technically not hunting because we don't have deer hunting in the village.
Right.
I should say, they're legally not hunting.
Harvesting.
it's full of people.
Damaging.
Just damage.
Deer nuisance management. That's really.
They're deer damage mitigation personnel. All right, so if there's no more discussion on that, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? All right.
Do you have to, with the chairman, that's just your appointment, it doesn't need to be, okay.
Annually, it is, but not on a vacancy. Then the last item for me is for the board to consider forming another ad hoc committee. This one, actually a revival of the Street Tree Committee, which existed, I want to say, from mid-1990s, so 95, 96, all the way through the early part of the 2000s. That particular committee, and I have this spreadsheet, although I did I put it in Dropbox? I don't think so. I'll email it to you all. They essentially, that committee walked the village over the course of a couple of years and identified individual trees, particularly trees in the right of way, street trees, those kinds of things, and evaluated them. Healthy, not healthy, property owner's responsibility, NICEX's responsibility, village's responsibility, and so forth. And then produced all of this information, and then it just stopped. I would like to, if you're interested, Ben, I would like to reform that committee with Ben on it, working closely with Karen Powers to review all of that now probably almost 20-year-old information and take a good look at what trees, if any, need some immediate attention.
So in what circumstance would the village be responsible for trees, other than obviously they're on like this property or village-owned properties? Because as I understand it, our right-of-way, we don't manage at all, as far as trees go. That's right.
I think that would be something for the committee to make a recommendation. If there are trees which pose a hazard to public safety in the village right-of-way, then how do we address that? Do we go to the property owner and say, please take care of this tree, it's your property, but our right of way? And if it falls on a car or an individual, that's not a good thing. I don't have any strong leanings one way or the other about how to proceed with that. I just think we should.
Right. Okay.
I don't think we've ever intervened unless we had a need to dig it up for some purpose. Whether it was paving or gas lines or whatever.
And it might, we might find it's one of those issues like sidewalks, and do you really force people to shovel their sidewalks or not?
I mean, the difficulty is that there's, just driving around, there's a lot of trees. There's a lot of trees that are very dangerous. There's a lot of trees that are very dangerous that are in the village right away. I think we've sort of skated by historically because NICEX has had a very sort of generous, they've been very helpful in a lot of this. But yeah, I think that's very good.
Yeah, I think it's something that we need to,
So are you evaluating trees just in the right of way, or are you evaluating the trees in front of the property? I mean, I have 4 trees in front of my house. One of them I know has an issue. And it's not in the right of way.
Well,
I think it has an issue.
I would,
I'll let them know.
yeah, I would leave it to the committee to determine how to make that recommendation. I don't know that we want to get into telling a property owner. We could inform them, we could inform them that that tree standing right there is gonna land in your house if you get a strong wind kind of thing. I don't know that we want to get into trying
Yeah, I
to
don't,
try to do anything about it.
It is, so I run into that every day, and it's very difficult to manage. The line of liability is very sketchy, so if you start saying that that is true, then the sort of implication is that you look over everything, and I don't think we want to be sending village personnel on people's private property, but, you know, I'd rather just keep the right of way and have that be a very concrete, specific line.
So if you're up for it, then I've already spoken with Karen about it. She's interested, but needs help, needs guidance. She's certainly not a tree expert, but taking care of timber has grown to the point where they're willing to start looking at larger things.
And I think Don also might have started a project of inventorying. I don't know where he got with that. I know he was fine
Yeah, they,
with the town, actually.
the town's conservation advisory committee, has both Don Ellis and Amy Hillman, who's,
Right.
you know, an arborist as well. And they submitted a grant last year to try to get money to do a tree inventory throughout the town, I think. And they didn't get it. I think they were trying to tweak that to reapply.
I think they were going to, but yeah.
Yeah, but Don certainly was involved, and Andy Hillman would be sort of, you know, a resource, whether he would serve on the committee, but I mean, Andy's the guy who, as you know, has helped with grants for trees along public routes and whatnot.
Okay. Any other?
Great idea.
I'll talk with you two and catch you.
Yeah.
Unless you want to, I will forward the inventory spreadsheet to everyone, just so you can see. Right, item number 7 is acknowledgement of correspondence, which I don't believe we received any correspondence to the full board. Old business, Ben actually covered it, the comp plan and zoning revision RFP update. That committee is in the process of reviewing the RFPs that were submitted and discussing how to proceed. Village Hall boiler replacement, I believe we will table till September, and we can decide how we want to tackle that before it snows.
See what I can pull together.
Farmer's Almanac says it's gonna be really, really cold.
I'll bring my boots. Mittens.
Item number 9, new business, Village Hall ramp repair.
So, I took a walk around the ramp with Tom and my father and got a sense of what needs to be replaced and looked at there. It looks like the kind of structure is pretty sound, but the flooring, the decking is really the problem. So in the Dropbox, there is a quote for just shy of $2,000, something that he's used previously in similar situations. That would be enough to cover the deck, and then we would have to find the time as to when to get people together to actually put that together and make that happen.
So that's the ramp going up and then taking a right?
Yeah.
And then stopping at the landing level?
No, it'd go all the way up. Yeah, I think all the way up to the actual porch is the idea. And then I think he said they may have missed some screws or something on here, so it might be a little bit more than this actual total, but only about like $100 or so. So that's where we've gotten to, but I didn't know actually at this point if we need multiple quotes or if we need to just kind of where we gotten to by kind of the end of last week.
We've tried to get multiple quotes, and Dusty can't get them.
Okay.
He committed and didn't come.
I think there's a difference between getting multiple contractors to quote and multiple resources, where
you've got
Yeah, this is-
Farrar
this is-
or lumber,
right, so this
we
is
would
just
go to
for-
Stover and get one, we're not.
This is just for materials.
This-
not-
oh, I don't-
Yeah,
This is a materials quote, it's not a service quote.
right.
So do we need multiple materials quotes? And I would ask for why we would check locally first.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm assuming this is someone my dad's worked with previously, but we absolutely
bet Stover doesn't carry what he likes to use.
It could be that, yeah.
Could be.
Because it's, yeah, that.
Just Lowe's or, and Home Depot.
Because
if you went to Farrar-
Lowe's might, because I was just trying to look up what this was again, because I actually didn't look into what it was, and it looked like Lowe's might have it, so.
What is it?
If it is what
I
I,
read that and I have no idea.
if it is what I found on Lowe's, it's, kind of this composite deck board that's kind of grooved, it looks like it kind of snaps together a little bit, or it's fastened
So
together.
it's like track,
Oh, yes, I heard of that.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that's what it is, because he had talked about something that was composite and not.
And the like hardware that's on there?
I think that's to whatever they need to put this particular thing together.
But I'm not entirely sure.
there's
Those
checks
screws.
and separate screws.
To countersink into the.
Oh, is it like a box?
Yeah,
It's
here you
just
go.
two
Did Dusty
boxes.
also ask you about Chief Nelson? Can you officially call him right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's 175 screws per box.
Chief Nelson would also like the steps in front of the PD department.
Taken care of.
Yes, like attitude, yes.
So
I mean, if it's a matter of just adding some to this, then
Right.
that can,
Okay.
this is what you're talking about,
I
right?
think-
This is trucks.
I think that's what it was
Yeah.
like, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was finding when I went and stuff.
How often has this been repaired lately? Like it's kind of-
About every 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. Especially the flat part, the turnaround. Or in fact,
It's been.
It was-
Repaired light.
It's warped and come up.
Right.
Is,
It has to be re-screwed down.
It sounds like it's been replaced every.
It hasn't been replaced in the 6, 7 years I've been here.
Okay,
Couple boards here and there, but
yeah.
not replaced.
It does seem like part of the issue is that it's heavily trafficked, it's got a lot of salt during the winter, and it just kind of gets torn apart.
There's also no roof coverage. I mean, it's.
Right.
It's sort of bad.
Then we do try to salt off it when we can.
Yeah.
Which is,
So we can either price shop to try to save a few dollars, or we can authorize an expenditure up to a dollar amount and authorize Ben to take the delivery and organize the chain gang. You have a building repair line.
we do. Do you want to know how much is that? Okay. Go ahead with the conversation, because it's going to take a second.
So I think we should authorize the expenditure up to like $2,000 or something and say, because this is another issue that should be done before snow.
Before
And
winter.
then, you know, the way these things drag on, if we can do it right now, we should do it right now.
I agree.
Will it require another inspection to see how much tacking on the police department would cost?
I don't know,
They have a budget line that can support that. Why is it-
yeah, that's a good question. The question is, do we want to add, whatever it is, an extra 3, 4, 5 boards or something to get that done, and then what does that do to the price, and then,
If we're coming up with a number to
yeah.
authorize. up to,
Oh,
we should try to include
almost
that.
as-
So I guess we could.
It's hard to guess.
This was
because I only need
1850 or so.
So if we're not.
All right, do that, that's not very much.
2,200.
Yeah, I think that should probably be fine.
About 2,200,
It's-
that'll cover the steps. For,
Yeah, especially if it's just,
$2,000.
you know, the trend.
$22,000 on it.
And those maintenance repair line.
But That's why we
Take the
contractual
balance,
line.
take the balance on it, please.
Yeah,
Okay, so if someone would like to make a motion to spend up to negative 2,200?
Yeah, I move that we
2,200?
authorize up to $2,200 for materials to replace the decking on the stairs in Village Hall and the police department entrance.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions.
I'll abstain. I don't know, Doug suggested I, I'm not sure
We're not paying him to do it, so
Yeah,
it's up to you.
I'll just, yeah, I'll abstain. For
Because the work's going to be.
I guess because the work's going like that, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, but he's not working.
Abstain because you don't want to
He's
make your father
volunteered.
volunteer.
Volunteer, that's true.
No, wait a second, I want to vote for this.
Is there an idea of how many people it will require? Is there a maximum or a minimum?
I don't know that. That'll put it out.
Check with him how many people he needs, and we'll try to find some weekend dates.
4 people would be great, and you can step on each other.
Might have 40 show up.
That's even better.
Step on a bunch of people.
Like, a person-
Any other new business? All right, then we got some bills to pay.
that is including maintenance,
Yes.
because yours didn't.
I'm sure everybody can pull it up in the Dropbox. So we have a general fund abstract totaling $186,860.16.
That is not what is on this abstract. Tell you said that. Got general fund, it's 187,128.02.
Did I know?
Inflation runs deep.
That's the balance. Or what is the other?
I'm trying to get that on there.
Yeah, this is moved out of there.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, the other ones might be right there. All right, so we have a general fund abstract totaling $187,128.02.
I move that we pay 187,128.02 from the general fund.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? The difference between what I have in my hand and what's there is the farmer's market manager monthly stipend is in the Dropbox, but not on the sheet in front of me.
I apologize, I finally did that.
Is this the one with the 50,000? No. I don't have any questions about this.
If there are no questions, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Next is the EMS billing abstract, paying MedX for their services in the amount of $1,708.26.
Move that we pay that EMS billing abstract.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
These just not going out.
Are you talking about the towns?
Yeah.
Brian and I are in the process of trying to balance them. So,
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. The water fund abstract in the amount of $73,028.03.
I move that we pay $73,028.03 from the water fund.
Second. So this is the one, the supply and distribution bond? Is that?
Yeah, this is the interest payment, I think, on the bond, for $50,000.
principal,
See, it's-
it's principal. It's principal, that
That's
interest.
principal? Okay.
Principal on which bond?
It's one of the water repair bonds.
Water repair.
Well, it's an older bond.
The water tank one, probably, right?
I can tell you in just a second which one it was.
So we paid them in $50,000 installments before and they just. All right.
That's true.
It is for the water supply distribution system. This is the next to last payment on that one.
Which one is it? Started 2009, so this was Main Street, right? This was Route 96 water main.
Was it?
No, it wasn't the water well one, it was that, or
Not water well.
yeah.
This
It was,
was,
wasn't this a thing?
It wasn't the one we did on maybe, or was doing when I came in 2012, it was part.
it was prior to that.
Yeah,
This was 2009, this is actually tail end of Main Street project.
oh, okay,
Okay.
Big water main that was replaced down there.
okay, yep. And it's the next one, the last, next year will be the last one.
Good. We want it all. But
We do have a motion and a second on the water fund abstract. Any other questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Opposed, abstentions. Flashbulbs. We have a sewer fund abstract in the amount of $23,464.90.
we should play this. I move that we pay $23,464.90 to the sewer fund.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Capital improvement water well, second water source project this is for the backup generator in the amount of $1,701.
I move that we pay $1,701 for the water capital improvement water well project.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Does that mean it's in?
It means it's here. It's a portable generator, by the way. No, it's not in.
Right, but it is gonna live.
It is gonna live here.
Anything else?
That's it.
Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. And last but not least, we have our trust and agency abstract in the amount of $29,524.69.
Move that we pay that trust and agency abstract. Second.
Motion and a second, any comments or discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Just get this in there for Thursday.
Yep, and well, sorry about that.
All right, our second public comment period, privilege of the floor is open. Yes, ma'am.
I'm increasingly struggling to figure out a way to cross Lake Street safely again. I mean, always. And I just wanted to bring up, I'm sure we talked about it before, some kind of like a fisheye mirror on the corner on the sewage treatment plant side, so you can see what's coming down the hill if you're walking up the hill, and vice versa. That's it.
We
And
are,
also, when can we meet the police?
he was here briefly earlier. We are having a ceremonial swearing in tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Right here in this room.
Okay,
You're welcome to attend.
thank you. I'm sorry to say this.
He had down from Cuba, but depending on how it's installed, maybe, I don't know how a fisheye camera would work exactly there, but it
Like in
could
one of
be.
those mirrors, it just rams you, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what it's saying, right?
Yeah. One of the things is stop signs are part of our vehicle and traffic, the village vehicle and traffic law. So we would have to amend the local law to change stop sign placement, which we're okay with doing. We want to have the new chief give it a good looking through for his opinion on any of those.
So does the village own that property that's right up against the kind of intersection there from the sewer side? Could there be, I mean, I've seen that like when you're backing out from someone's driveway or something, you get that kind of right concave mirror next.
I believe so, but we have to.
Really could. It's kind of, so I've thought about this a little bit too, because it's like the worst intersection in the world. And it's tricky because in order to make that work, you have to have a very large mirror to see it from a distance. I mean, it's not like you're backing out where you're moving fairly slowly. And it's, I mean, you can probably do it so that you see around the corner without like blinding oncoming traffic with the mirror. But that's always been my concern, is that people driving at the mirror would have their lights reflect back at them.
Yeah,
But maybe if it's at a steep enough angle, it works. It's
I
like,
don't know. I just know that like my issue personally is just coming down the sidewalk and trying to figure out where to cross so that I don't get squished by cars moving around the corner. And then also not get squished by cars coming down the hill on the side road that's the, what's it called? Gully or whatever that is that catches the water. So it's, you know, it's always an issue, I know, but.
The stop sign might be helpful, and just to block one way of traffic, right? So you got fewer pieces to kind of navigate through.
But if she's walking out of her property and trying to cross the street, she can't because those people are whipping around, going down and then up.
Right.
And it's on her side that she can't see. If there was a fish bowl, at least she could look down on top of that stop sign, at least she could glance at that, get some idea of it if people were coming.
Indeed, it didn't occur to me though that at night that would be.
I think not. I mean, I bet you could make it work. That's just my own.
Can I speak to that issue also? We've had, there's, maybe you heard of some of the old that was killed on Hayes Road over the weekend. We don't have all the information yet, but part of that is that the people were concerned about is coming over on Line Hill, that she possibly couldn't see them and they couldn't see her until they were right at the crest. So visibility is a huge issue if you can't actually see, and I was just driving back and forth to Newfield. A lot of different windy roads and up those hills. I'm thinking the whole time, I'm like, you know, I'm slowing down, I keep slowing down, I'm like, but still going around all these turns, there's somebody, and it was raining, I was like, there's no way I can stop
If there's any like county resource to like look at that intersection, like a engineering or something, I mean, I don't, not that we would change the roads, but like, other than us just kind of guessing, right? I don't know if anyone's aware of anything like that.
My strategy right now is just to hold my breath so I can hear everything and like stand for a second and then just like go like hell.
We should have a hybrid or electric car coming, can't hear
Those things are
well, yeah.
Well, she hadn't thought about that, now she's.
So now you're stuck in your house.
We could look at that. I mean, unless we're gonna change the shape of the road, and it's really it really has to be a law enforcement issue.
Yeah, yeah, no, it wasn't to change the road, but just maybe there are things like mirrors or other kind of helpful. I don't know. I don't do road stuff, so. I don't know.
Go ahead to Chief Nelson's onboarding.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Add it to the list.
There you go.
I can check with the county,
Yeah, if there's any kind of, I don't know.
because I want to call them about that other road, just county.
Yeah, if you find that out there.
So I found out for that, for instance, the county with the town has to apply to the state regulates the speed on a county road, so the county and the town have to apply together to ask the state to do a speed study.
Just looking at it, trying to see if there's, ways to put stop signs.
Do we ever get the results
Mirrors
of
or
our,
whatever.
of our
stoplight requests.
We have an older one, I don't remember a newer one coming in. We have one from 2008 or 9, right after the Main Street project was completed, maybe 7 or 8.
I thought we did one after, we had some kind of meeting, well, it was our village, say the village, and people said, oh, we needed this. And we asked DOT to do the study, there at Union Street and at Lake, and I don't remember ever getting the results of those studies.
I remember the one at Union supposedly, and I don't remember which study this would be, but they had to wait an average of 30 seconds to get out from Union to take a right or a left. And they basically said, if it's not 4 times that, we're not interested in the light. You can pay for one yourself.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you had your hand up first.
Sure.
I've got a couple, remarks, I guess. You're talking about fire equipment, and I moved here from Southern Vermont, and I was a firefighter there. I'm amazed at the size of the equipment we have here. It just blows me away. I haven't investigated numbers, costs, budgets, and that sort of thing, but these trucks are huge. And that seems to be a New York word, that facility dealership use. And I'm just amazed at those trucks, because in Vermont, we have lake, and we have to have, the trees and stuff moved and trimmed so we get access. There's poor access here, and some of those roads, I wouldn't drive a fire truck down, especially a huge one. So I'm just commenting at this point. It seems to me there might be 3 categories of vehicles. The huge jumbo style, which is what we've got. The giant big style, which is what in Vermont we dreamed about. And then the regular economy size, which is what we had. I was in a town of 700 people. I read on Backyard that there are 1,496 or some people in Trimsbury, is that right?
I think close to 1,800.
1,800, 1791, I think, at the last census.
So
About 1,800.
it's 3 times larger than the Vermont town that I came from. And the town next to us was 5,000. And they had 6 trucks. None of them were big. So we have really monster vehicles here. I also, and I see the vehicles from fire departments around. I guess it's the thing to have a very big chief's vehicle. But I sometimes wonder, what, you don't have a boat. On our lake, we had a boat that, there's a camp on Friday, take the boat, which has a pump on it, and use that. I don't know if that's been considered, not valuable or whatever, but, and what about a car instead of a truck? In Vermont, we used to go around and take people to funerals and things like that, so we needed a bus when we needed a pickup truck. So I wonder if a car has been considered. So there's just some quips I guess. I would like the chief not to know that I said this stuff, but it just shocks me to see, it's like, the maintenance and stuff. I couldn't believe it. The truck you just bought, you have to tip the cab for to get in underneath. The dipstick can't see till they lift the cab up. Well, to get the cab down, because it has to be perfectly flat to activate that down. I would have thrown that truck out just for that. I don't understand the amount of money you're putting in that fire equipment is way above what, I don't know if it's above, but I don't know how it compares to other towns and communities and stuff. But boy, we just seem to have deep pockets available, I guess. I'm surprised. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And then I would have the follow-up question, if I don't know.
But based on what you said, is that because we have steeper New York State requirements, which seems to be an overwhelming thing that we see here, is that our New York State requirements end up putting us where we are most of the time. I don't know if anyone has an answer.
Yeah, that would be a question for the chief.
Jason?
I don't think that's the case.
You can volunteer
I mean,
for it.
We're required to provide basically the equipment that keeps them safe. I think it's, I forget the legal jargon, but necessary and whatever, the second word is, common, but not common. So I don't, think it's being a lot of latitude that, like the ladder truck isn't necessary.
Unless you are fighting a fourth floor fire and there's ice on the roof.
Dumping water on a roof. Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, it's not, it's not legally. It's,
Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
A little bit more of a question. So I get the sales tax summaries per quarter, per month. Do you guys get them also, for the county and then what the municipalities get? Do you want me to save those and report to you guys?
We don't get anybody's but ours.
Okay. Do you want me to tell you like the percentages as I get them, or is that's not something valuable to you guys?
I think countywide, I don't know if we're necessarily interested in each individual municipality, but countywide would be interesting.
The figures that I get are for the county and then what the municipalities get within the county. So it's two figures.
Well, we get the village's numbers, so I think countywide would be.
It's the same town or village.
Right, I'm saying we already get the village numbers, but we don't get the countywide numbers.
So you want me to tell you the county?
Countywide would be interesting, sure.
Get it? Okay. So I'll tell you the counties. For the second quarter, the sales tax revenue was up that was for June, 10.28% it was up. For the second quarter, it was up 8.95%. So it's continued to go up, and for overall for the year, it's up 6.06%. So things are looking good for that.
Good.
What's up for the year?
6.
6.06.
Good.
Was that attributed to anything particular?
Well, we've been asking that, like, why? So finally they did some research, so I actually have that case. That's glad you asked. They think they're trying to trace it back, and there's a lot more people driving because the economy is better, and also because it's not well enough that people are taking necessarily flights, but people are local tourist travel, and people are coming into this area for tourism. So a lot is on the sales tax for the gas. And inflation is up a little bit, but it's not up too much, so prices are up, but not too much to discourage people from spending. And consumer confidence is also up. And unfortunately, also consumer credit is up. But I guess when people
You're confident.
people spend more on their credit cards and stuff, that's good for sales tax.
Especially when they're doing kitchen renovations.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said, especially when they're doing kitchen renovations.
Wait till they buy furniture for that new renovation.
So do you want those when I get them, I mean, it's every
Sure.
month? Okay.
Because about two or 3 years ago, Jim Dennis came in and told us that it was like down 3%, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it can go down, yeah,
right.
especially 2008, 2009.
But we use that in our budgeting. That's a substantial part of our budget is what we get in sales tax. So it is good to know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment or public comment? Anyone? All right. Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss EMS personnel, police personnel, and negotiations pursuant to the Taylor Law.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. All right, we are in executive session. Thank you everyone for being here.
Public meeting